Okay guys, I'm going to push things a little bit here. I'm actually going to stain the other side of this door. Now this door has actually had about a half hour to dry, and let me actually show you what it actually looks like. It actually looks pretty uniform for the most part. This looked really kind of blotchy when it was first wiped, and it's actually gotten a lot better over the last half hour. Now, in my previous video series on this, it kind of mentioned that you know, the stain looked a little bit blotchy, and I kind of thought that some of that might have been where it wasn't completely dry. I'm thinking that's part of the case. Now, in a solvent-based system, a lot of times you can get by pushing the stain dry time a little bit. Being a solvent stain actually dries a lot quicker because there's a lot of faster solvents in there. A lot of times you can put it clear over a lot quicker. With the water, you're basically trying to evaporate the water off along with any co-solvents that are in there. I'll be willing to bet that if I let this dry, maybe even overnight, that this will look actually pretty nice. Now, some people have said they've had really hard problems or had a lot of issues with water-based stains being blotchy. I can't really say the case. I've actually had that in my previous testing of other finishes. One of the ones that I tested probably about 2011 or so, the stain looked really horrible when it was wet, but when it was dry, it was actually very nice and uniform. And I'm kind of thinking that's going to be the same thing with this one here. So I'm going to flip this over, and we're going to do the other side. And I'm going to actually try to saturate this a little bit more. Here we go. Now, if there's any tip I can share with you on my past water-based and waterborne experiences with the stain, for the most part, more is better. If you dry spray them or dry wipe them, there's not a lot left to wipe. I actually got this door pretty much wiped clean already. Now, this may not look very attractive, but if it's anything like the back, it's going to look a lot better over time. So I'm just going to walk away from this. I'm going to leave the shop for a while and just see what it does. Now, I will have to tell you, the finishing conditions right now are not really ideal. They're on the cool side. I'm running at about 61 degrees right now here in the shop at about 27% humidity. So I'm in the winter right now, kind of the coldest I let it get in the shop here. For water or any finishing, it's ideal to have it warmer, but this is kind of the worst case scenario. So like I said, being that the back looks a lot better compared to the front, I will be willing to bet that this front's going to actually look very nice and clean. So I'm just going to let this dry. Warmer temperatures, the water is going to flash off, and the cold solvents are going to flash off a lot quicker and evaporate and get themselves all the grain. So, all right. there you can kind of see how the color comes out. You know, somebody might say it's still blotchy, but it's actually really uniform. That's about the same thing that I would get with the solvent. Alright, so I'm going to walk away from this, let this dry. I'm looking at it right now. I don't see anything different as far as from a solvent to water. You know, it kind of looks like it's bubbles, but it's not really. I'd see the same thing in a seal coat of a solvent, so there's nothing here that scares me. Maybe it looks a little bit better than what I saw before, but on the test panel that I did, it looked the same way, and the camera's not going to pick it up too well, but this is smooth as can be. So alright, I'm going to walk away from this. I'm going to come back probably in about an hour or so and spray the other side. I always like to dust off, just to make sure there's no dust or anything. And here we go. Okay, so it's a little lumpy looking. It looks like it's bubbles, but it's not really. It's just how the finish is actually soaking into the wood itself. And the panel I did in the past, prior to the video here, this one here, had that same look. And as you can see now, it's just as glossy and as smooth as can be. I don't know whether you're going to see that, but... Alright, so I'm going to let this sit. I'm going to let this sit overnight. Tomorrow morning we'll come back at this. We'll spray both the back and the front again with the second coat. And we'll see what it looks like there. Like I said, I'm using one size smaller tip for this. It's actually about a 9/1000. It'd be like equivalent to a 409. So, alright, that's it for this one. Alright, we're back in the shop here the next morning. I'm going to scuff up the seal coat. This doesn't feel any rougher than any other type of a waterborne or water-based coating I've sprayed. I mean, it's got your typical little bit of grain raise, maybe a little bit of nap, but it's really no different than anything else. So it's nothing to be too excited about. I'm just using the Festool Granat to scuff this up. It's actually chalking up really nice. Now this color is a little bit lighter, so I don't know how well it's going to show up on the camera, but on the cognac it actually showed up quite a bit. And we're kind of cool in the shop here, probably about 60 degrees right now, so this is about as low as it gets here. And this stuff definitely chucks up. It's not like some of the other ones. I don't remember which one it was, not that it matters, but I had a really hard time trying to find the media that would make it chalk up nice. And you can see here I'm going with the grain, across the grain, doesn't matter. The top coat will cover it up. I would say as far as the film thickness that I laid on here, between that 3.5, 4, I was told that when you start to see that milky look, you're probably hitting a good 4 mils. So it wasn't overly milky by any means, but it was definitely not perfectly clear. Like I said, this stuff is just chalking up nicely. I need to grab a synthetic pad to do the profiles and edges, but when you get into water, it's going to teach you a few things about sanding preparation. That's where some people struggle with water in general, is if you go from a solvent that's pretty much non-grain raising to water, and if you don't prep it right, you get a kind of a feeling of how water, or how bad water can be in one's mind. But that's not really the case. It's just more so the preparation of it. We're gonna go spray the back with the first coat of the top coat. Again, I'm just gonna do 2 coats. I already got the seal coat down. I'm gonna lay 1 top coat on both sides. Okay, just wanted to take a quick look at this while this is drying. You know, it actually looks really nice. There's a bubble there. There's a few bubbles, maybe a dozen maybe. But from what I've seen with this, these, as the coating flashes off, they pop. So I'm not over at all concerned with this. I don't know how well the camera saw it, but when I first sprayed this, it kind of looked like it had measles. But again, they're all leveling out and disappearing. So just kind of give you a quick 360. Couple right there. But overall, this will look just fine when it's done. Those bubbles will break. Alright, we'll come back when this is dry in about an hour and a half and spray the other side. Okay, so I'm just going to let this dry. Got a couple bubbles here still, but it's nothing other than ordinary. The film's laid out pretty wet for the most part. You know, it's nothing here I haven't seen before. So, like I said, temperature conditions are around actually about 62 right now. So, I could raise this a little bit more, but like I said, I have seen this before, and I'm just going to let it do what it's going to do. So best thing to do is just walk away from it and come back when it's dry. So that's what I'm going to do. So I'll do a follow-up with this once this is dry and show you what the finished door looks like. Alright guys, we're back in the shop here and just reevaluating this door here. So the whole intent of me revisiting the Aqua Coat water-based finish was I had actually had an opportunity to talk with Brian from Aqua Coat, and he saw some of the videos and just kind of wanted to point out a couple things that might help with a couple of things I saw in the previous videos. And one of them was as far as a little bit of blotchiness. I actually took this door up higher in grit than I did my previous ones. This one actually went up to 320, and I was actually quite surprised for running it up to 320 as far as how uniform the color is, but still had a little bit of grain raise yet. Now the grain raise, I don't really care whose finish you're spraying. If it's got water, you're going to have a little bit of grain raise regardless. It's just the way it is. But the color uniformity, I think, is probably maybe a little bit better than my previous one. Some people think water-based finishes or water-based stains and dyes tend to be more blotchy. Some seem to think that they're more uniform. I've had experience both directions with a water-based or waterborne stain. One manufacturer was really blotchy looking when it was wet, but when it was dry it was very uniform. And the other one I looked at one point in time, it was really uniform when it was wet, and was dry it actually was very uneven. So looking at this here, this is no different than what I do right now on a solvent stain. The only way that I could get around this in a solvent stain was to actually do what we call an NGR dye stain, which is made with a lot of fast solvents. You can only spray it on. You spray it on, it dries very quickly, and then you put a weak wipe stain over it. But for this here, this stain was sprayed on, it was wiped off. It wiped very clean, very quickly, did not leave fingerprints, which is something I currently deal with right now on a solvent stain. It was very nice to work with. The finish on here again is the Aqua Coat water-based lacquer satin sheen. 2 coats self-seal system. It feels really good. The only thing I noticed was on the back is almost like perfect, feels nice. The front feels good, but I have a couple spots that actually have, looks to be possible some debris underneath the finish. And it's definitely not bad though. It's not something that I would normally reject. But overall, you know, color looks nice and uniform. It's got a nice uniform sheen to it. This is only about 2 hours old, and I'm handling it pretty good and not having any issues with, you know, fingerprints or anything like that. So it's definitely solid. So the things I did differently in this on this door is I had actually polished the door up to 320 to kind of help with more of the color consistency. I definitely think I see a little bit better there. There's some things I still need to improve on yet. I still need to improve my sanding of the edges, which I thought I did, but I still didn't quite get it there. And the other thing I tried as well was actually tried a smaller tip to help atomize the pattern or the material a little bit finer. The other thing that Brian had mentioned too is even the fact that I'm atomizing this at a high pressure, you still don't want to shake this coating, just for the simple reason that you entrap those bubbles and they do actually work their way out to the wet film. So whenever possible, stir it up the best you can. And if you're going to do anything other than stirring, is actually just take the gallon jug and rotate it like a football a little bit to make sure everything's in suspension. And that's what I did here. So like I said, I did see a couple improvements that I tried based on Brian's recommendation that definitely helped. This particular finish, the Aqua Coat water-based lacquer, does meet KCMA requirements. So if you have to be part of KCMA requirements, it's something that will definitely work for you. The other thing too is the solids content is about 27 to 31.5% by weight. So it's got a decent weight to it. The viscosity, I don't remember the viscosity on it. You know, it is a little bit on the thin side, but I think with practice, you'll definitely get it. I have a lot of experience spraying, but to spray water, you know, if you haven't done it before, it's a little bit different than solvent. So, but it was very easy to work with. So if you guys are looking for a water-based finish, definitely check out the guys at Aqua Coat. All right, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a little bit longer, but I wanted to kind of cram it into one. I didn't really want to do another video series, but I just kind of wanted to retest this stain and finish system again and see if I got to perform any different, better or worse. So, all right, guys, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Questions and positive comments are welcome. All right, guys, thanks for watching.